Well, everything I say is an attempt to address that. Pretty much every group, every meditation, every conversation in this space. So I'm sure I say a lot of things of what can be done, but if I were to summarize it, I have two approaches, and there are two approaches that are complementary. It's not like choose one; it's both. You could say one is more active and one is more passive, but not really. It's just more like in the surface. The approach that I'm right now calling more active has to do with when I talk about what we truly want. So we're constantly pulled internally. There's something we deeply want and something we more superficially want, and they have different. They're in service to different gods, let's say. Those desires are in service to different gods. And these gods don't get along. I'm being playful with the use of the word gods, right? One is the, let's say, egoic desire. It's the desire in service of the identification and the belief of me, and in the contraction, in the separate self. And the deeper one is the universal calling, the from love, from freedom. And often, most of the time, they don't want the same things. These parts of us, let's say. And so, because if we listen to the deeper, the identified feels like it's coming to an end. One has to die in service of the other. And the resistance is of that which we when we're identified. And so when I talk about going towards your fear, going towards your pain, and in life listening to what you truly deeply want and going for it, which is also taking a risk. It requires doing something that's going to be likely scary or will bring up pain, and it's going to be deeper fear, deeper pain. And so that's one way we can approach that. And it's a challenging way, but it's very fruitful, because it's where we test, where we can find out what is real. Let's pause there. If you stopped resisting, so you said what you deeply want is to stop resisting. What if life is you? It's not a third entity. Yeah, but I'm wondering, you're talking about the ending of a resistance, right? And what I'm wondering is, what would you do if the resistance ended? Yeah, but I'm asking you because I don't believe there's a bit of an echo. I don't believe that's the deepest in you. It's you're wanting something that is just a vehicle in to get to something else. There's there's an imagination in you of something that will happen or you will experience when the resistance stops. So you're desiring the end of the resistance. And I'm inviting you to listen more deeply, because that to me isn't a deep, it isn't this deep wanting that I'm talking about. Yeah, and listening to the desire of the resistance stopping is a trap. It's not is a superficial desire. I think you are listening to a superficial desire. Yeah. When you answer the question what you truly want with I want the resistance to stop, you're desiring a negative. You're desiring the absence of something. That's not a true want. The true want is creative, is expansive. It's that's why I asked you what would happen if the resistance stopped. It pointing to what's the positive, and maybe you would, and this I'm just gonna be imagining. Maybe you would feel something like, well, I would go and travel the world, or I would, etc., etc. I don't know. I don't want to put ideas. It's worldly things. In this level, it's worldly things. It's a kind of work. It's a kind of service. It's a kind of creative pursuit. It's family. It's love. It's relationship. It's romance. It's travels. It's experiences. That's what at this level um, life wants as a human being. There's the desires of human beings, and if that is in a sense blocked or a little dormant or not as deeply free, then there's a lot of potential for expansion, for abundance, for freeing up at this level. And so when you asked me the question in the beginning, I said there's two things, and I'm talking about one of them, which has to do with, ultimately it has to do with going towards what we want in spite of the risk of pain. And the deeper we listen, the deeper the risk of pain. And then, yeah, And just to answer fully the question, the other side has to do with what you've been bringing up as well, which is self-inquiry, which has to do with looking at that which resists. But for you, I'm not feeling to focus on that, because I think you've focused enough. And what happens is, this is it's a dance, right? We will come to a kind of ceiling of development, and sometimes it's going to be opened up by self-inquiry, by looking at thoughts and the resistance and that which resists, and seeing more deeply that that isn't real. And sometimes the ceiling of that freedom will be opened up by putting that in practice, listening more deeply what we want, and experimenting in life. And so these work together. Sometimes we're stuck because we're trying this and we've come so far, we can't go further, so we need to do a more contemplative. Exactly. And to use the metaphor a bit further, what happens is that we get better at surfing, the waves get bigger, and it gets more fun, but also more painful when we fall. No, more likely it's the opposite. When you're experiencing resistance, you're going in the right direction. Well, the problem is that I can't answer that for you. I can't. I cannot answer for you what you want, right? But we're having the conversation of how to guide or ignite this process. But you're already in the process. You're already exploring. You're noticing resistance. You're having the questions without answers. Because for example, I don't live with an answer to the question what I want. I have no answers. Okay. Yeah. And so what I do know is that something can get unlocked, something can get freed up, and it can make a really big difference. And so, in the example of you're talking to your neighbor and you feel a known sensation of discomfort that you're calling resistance, or I don't want to be in this conversation, or I have to go, or something like that. It might be a knowing that you need to end the conversation. Yeah, and it has a certain kind of discomfort or contraction as the experience, but it doesn't mean that anything wrong is happening or anything unaligned is happening. But if you start to notice a habit whenever you're in certain kinds of conversations, you feel that way, then you can look more deeply what's happening. Yeah, and that's why the metaphor of surfing is very good, because if you're surfing and you ask yourself, which way do I want to go, right or left, you're likely going to fall. And so it's more around a certain kind of not knowing. There is no answer, but you feel and you take a risk, right? And then you take a risk, and then you're still on the board, or you take a risk and you're off the board. You say the word wrong, that's
Yeah.
that's the desire of the superficial mind. That's exactly how the superficial mind works. It's going to be looking for what's wrong, convincing that it's wrong, and then having a really clear, certain path of a solution or an answer to what to do. It starts from that sense of something, of what is happening now, of what is now, is not okay. There's something wrong, and it has to be different. And then only through thinking can we, by going into the world of contracted thought, can we try to manipulate what is for it to become what it should be. Just one more thing, that the sense that when you experience what you're calling resistance as something wrong, instead experience it, look at it as a different new wave. Surf with that sensation and experience of resistance, instead of saying it's wrong and it needs to be this way or that way, or